I'm Mahan.
And I'm Celine.
And welcome to another episode at the
We Are Podcast.
So, for today's episode, we are going to talk a little bit, starting off, about Halloween, because Halloween was yesterday.
So, today... Well, yeah, the day we're filming it on Halloween, but the day we post it is, like, the day after Halloween.
So, let's talk. What are you being for Halloween?
I'm being Velma from Scooby-Doo.
That's great.
I wore that to school because we had a costume day. Mm-hmm. And then also we had a party for, like, a club where I wore it to.
Yes.
What are you being?
I am being... Okay, so for the school parties, I wore Red Riding Hood / the devil, because I had devil earbuds, and I just wore a red skirt. Mm-hmm. It worked. But for actual Halloween, I'm going to be Hermione, because I love Hermione.
Hermione Granger, guys.
I literally wanted to be Hermione so bad when I was a kid.
Hermione. I've been Hermione too before. Everyone loves Hermione.
You gotta love the Hermione.
Let's talk about Halloween. Fun. Great. Love it, right?
It's a great holiday.
There's a but to everything.
There's a but to everything.
Tell us about that but.
Not including people. Wait, actually including people.
Yeah.
Not excluding.
Not excluding, exactly. Tell us a little bit more about that but.
So, the first news update is about being Halloween safe, because we all know y'all got a bunch of candy and you probably stuffed half of it in your mouths, but just to be safe, we wanted to talk to you a little bit through Halloween candy safety, because I know it's like really boring and a little bit like noisy, like teacher type, but it's important because we don't want you to be drugged. So
yeah, and also think about it this way: you can enjoy your Halloween even more if you're being safe.
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to be like candy patrol, because I've been in the place where I wanted to eat sketchy candy.
But you know,
it's better safe than sorry.
It's better not to eat needles. Just saying.
Okay, so throughout history, I think there's been like a lot of like rumors going around that someone drugged candy, or like there's actually been a couple of cases where like kids died unexpectedly around Halloween, and they think it's like because of like drugs, but they don't like know where it is, or like there's other reasons that could be for their deaths. But there has been, like, a lot of scandals about, like, people drugging Halloween candy and handing it out.
And also, like, didn't someone, like, put some chemical or, like, Tide Pod in candy? Or, like, needles or something? They wrapped it in needles.
There was a rumor that there was, like, needles in it.
Yeah.
Like, cocaine needles.
Oh, that's so disgusting.
So, just to sort of, like, basic courtesy of Halloween candy, if anything is, like, a candy that you don't know, like...
Like, never heard of.
Yeah. Like, sketchy, like, candy from, like, middle of, like, the East Coast and, like, this Barbados or something.
Like, if it's not a popular company, like Snickers, Skittles, those are popular. Everyone knows
and even if it's, like, lesser known, like, 100 Grand or Rolos, those are still very popular candies.
Like, I would suggest, if it seems weird to you, I guess, like, look it up and see how common it is. Because if it's really uncommon, you never know. Another thing, definitely, I would say, if it's opened or there's, like, a small opening, don't eat it. Because that's just... like, gross, you know?
Yeah, and it is. So, honestly, I feel like we should have worn our costumes to this episode.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I just realized that now.
We should have done that.
Sorry,
Dang
guys.
it, I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
What the
and
heck?
love, like, the East Coast accent.
Sorry,
you get some bunny waffles.
Bunny waffles?
Here in Jersey.
Here in Jersey, guys. You gotta come to Boston, mate.
Oh my god, I should be like a Italian, like, heritage person who sells pizza for next Halloween.
Yes. An Italian man.
One of my friends was like Gordon Ramsay, and they carried around a wooden spoon and like 2 slices of bread.
I love Gordon Ramsay.
They carried around 2 slices of bread and like slapped them on people who were like, "You idiot sandwich! You idiot! You idiot sandwich!"
I love that. That's so creative. I love that.
Yeah, but anyway. Back to cocaine candy. C-squared.
Because that's a thing, guys.
Because, I mean, I guess there hasn't been, like, a huge proven scandal, but there has been a lot of, like, small things that you just need to be safe, because people out there are weird, and you don't know what goes through their mind.
Yeah.
So, if you see any candy that looks like it's been opened or, like, super glued back shut, candy that you don't know, like, just suspicious-looking candy, just scout it out with your parents, and just, like, be extra sure.
And also, look at the candy before you eat it, to make sure there's nothing on it or in it.
Some people, like, save candy from, like, years before that they didn't give, and they would give people, like, expired candy. And,
candy
like,
expired?
I know someone, this kid in, like, elementary school ate, like, half of his bag, and some of them were, like, expired, and he had food poisoning for, like, a week.
Oh, girl, I didn't even know candy expired.
Yeah, it does.
Oh,
especially
gross.
like a lot of chocolates, I think.
Check the expiration date, folks.
And if it tastes like stale, just throw it away. It's not good. Last but not least about Halloween, allergies. Take it away, Celine.
Okay, so I'm allergic to like tree nuts and stuff, so besides peanuts and almonds, which is great. So like if you have allergies and you know what you're allergic to, obviously check the ingredients, just because that's like a, you know, you should.
And on the mini ones, sometimes they don't show it, so Google.
You can Google it, totally. Or if it's something that you just really don't know, then just don't eat it. But also I would say carry around like an allergy kit if you're eating them with you, just because that'll keep you safe. And also, you know, don't eat anything if it says, like, may contain or, like, obviously contain, you know.
Yeah.
And just, like, check with your parents if you're really not sure about something.
Yeah.
And if you have, like, a random allergy attack, then go to the hospital.
And also, instead of, like, throwing it away, give it to one of your friends or donate it, because I know that's...
Yeah, because I can't have Snickers and I'm giving all mine to Alana.
Yeah, I used to donate, like, my mom would make us donate, like, 100 pieces of candy.
Yeah, instead of, like, eating them all throughout the year, because that's not the healthiest
Or, like,
thing
giving
in the world.
them out to, like, kids. Just whatever you can do. It's good.
Give them to your friends, you know?
Yeah, it's a good way to kind of, like, regulate your candy intake. Because I know I, for one, can, like, inhale chocolate.
Same.
At unreal
I
speeds.
usually, like, yeah, I would say, like, don't keep it for, like, the entire year, because that's a little bit extra.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it's okay.
Anyway, on to our first actual update besides the fun little Halloween segment. We have white male wins money.
White male. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so a jury awards a man $10 million because he said he was being fired for being a white male. So that seems contradictory because I feel like racism is usually targeted towards, like, black people.
Like minorities.
Yeah, minority races. And I'll get into it. Okay, so a man in a lawsuit said that he was fired from a hospital for being a white man. According to the lawsuit, his former employer allegedly fired him and hired a black woman and white woman to increase diversity. So basically what they were trying to do at the workplace was increase diversity. And I think people's definition of diversity is more like other minority races rather than like white people. And also women, because I think men are definitely considered like not diverse, I feel like, just because women didn't have as many rights in the past. And
yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, so, David Duval was the name of the man. He was the plaintiff, meaning that he was the one who was suing. Yeah. So, he had been hired in 2013 for senior vice president of marketing and communications by Novant Health Inc. And he was fired in 2018, allegedly without any warning. So the lawsuit said that Duval was, quote, performing at a high level and exceeding performance expectations. So there was no reason why he should have been fired. And after he was fired, like I said before, a white woman or I'm not sure if she was white, but just a woman and a black woman were hired on. So the lawsuit also said he was replaced, quote, for the express purpose of increasing gender and racial diversity among Novant executives.
Which I feel like is really wrong. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like if you want to have more diversity, you just hire more people. You don't need to fire someone.
Yeah, you don't need to fire someone. Exactly. And you don't need to, like, hire someone just to increase. I feel like you should it's always important to have a diverse group, but that doesn't mean you should get rid of all the white people, you know? Because to have a diverse group, you need to have all different races.
And this is, like, prevalent in so many things. Like, I know for when college acceptances are, they're highly favored towards minority groups because obviously they want to have that diversity. And in that case, I guess it's okay because they want their campuses
I guess
to be filled.
I understand it because
But it's not like they're kicking out white people in their college to bring in more, like, Mexicans and blacks and, like,
so you don't want to, it's not fair if someone's doing well and they're, like, good at their job to just kick them out to increase diversity.
Yeah, if you want to increase diversity, just hire more people. You don't need to kick people out to do that.
Yeah, So on Tuesday, a jury in the case said that Duval had proven that his race and sex were both motivating factors in him previously being fired. The jury also said that the hospital he worked at could not prove that they made the decision regardless of his race and sex. So being white and being a male.
Yeah, because like if he's performing well, what excuse can you use?
Yeah, there was literally no excuse, and they also didn't tell him in advance like why, like. Yeah. So he was awarded $10 million. That's a lot of money.
I would rather be
punitive
fired.
Charges. Yeah, same. Literally. So punitive charges are basically a way for the defendant, if found guilty, to recompense for their action. So basically, he's being awarded money. Lagras told CNN's Duval's lawsuit, he said it's, quote, not a statement against diversity and inclusion programs. So I think it's important to add that they're not trying to say that diversity is bad, not at all. They're saying it's not right to fire some to increase diversity.
Yeah.
And also, you can build a sense of community and diversity with everyone, you know, males, white males, black women, you know?
Yeah.
So, you should not fire people, especially if you have a legit reason, like, they're doing terrible, and they, like, you know.
Or they're, like, racist or something like that.
Yeah, then definitely I can understand that. But in this specific situation, it's just not, it was not precedented at all. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love to have given $10 million.
Honestly, I think he scored.
Yeah, honestly, maybe it's good he got fired.
Honestly, if I were to get fired,
maybe I should get fired and then fire.
Because let's think about it this way: like, he'd probably be making $100,000 anyway.
Yeah,
and $10 million. He
worked
set
at
for 100 years of his life.
Yeah. So he worked at a hospital, which is definitely a very, very decent like income. It's $10 million is way more than decent. It's like. Great.
Yeah, and he won't be like taxed as much for it because it's not like salary. Anyway, so
right.
The next update I feel like is really important because good news, FDA authorizes the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine for ages 5 to 11.
Ooh, that's good to hear.
So FDA, as one of the the Food and Drug Administration has enacted the emergency use authorization for kids aged 5 to 11 for the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And so this is like a super, super important step because with the new Delta variant and like other things, the infection of COVID-19 is becoming super transmissible to the group of children. Especially now that schools started back up. Schools have seen like a high rise in cases, which I will talk about later. But I feel like this is just such a good step because nearly like in a week, a high of like 95,000 child COVID cases were reported according to the Academy of Pediatrics. So it's like the Delta, as we know, is more than twice as contagious, and there's proof that shows that it's a lot more deadly and just like more sickening in a lot of ways. And so the CDC is actually really excited about this news, but before it can officially be rolled out, the CDC has to sign off before they can be distributed, and it is expected to be rolled out in your local Walgreens or hospitals as soon as next week.
That's awesome!
It's awesome. So,
yay.
Actually, this week when we'll be posting it. I guess it's this week now.
Yeah, because does the week start on Monday?
I think
Sunday?
It starts on Sunday in America. Okay. But anyway, so actually, I think I talked about this before, but FDA Commissioner Dr. Janet Woodcock, I talked about her last update. She is a very good member of the FDA.
Smart lady.
Yes. And so she said, quote, "As a mother and physician, I know that parents, caregivers, school staff, and children have been waiting for today's authorization. Vaccinating our younger population against COVID-19 will bring us closer to lead a sense of normalcy," end quote. And so they're hoping that this would lead them closer to having like a herd immunity, which is like where a majority of the people, or I think it's like around 70% or maybe 80% of the population is vaccinated. And this is really good. It also said the shots were effective in preventing over 90% of cases that were showing symptoms, as well as showing like higher levels of recovering faster. And the side effects were similar to the teenage age group.
Right.
And last but not least, let's talk a little bit about the controversy. So a lot of people are very hesitant about this. That's why I wasn't headlined as much.
I mean, some people are still hesitant if they're adults about taking the vaccine. So.
But I feel like for children, it's even more because a lot of people hear that children have more immunity naturally. But like I said, with the Delta variant, it's increasing. For example,
and it might be true that they have more immunity, but that doesn't mean that they have complete immunity. Anyways, so either way, it's still dangerous.
Especially with schools and like the Delta. It's increasing. So even as of October 21st, nearly 6.3 million children have tested positive for COVID.
That's a lot of children.
Yeah, since the start of the pandemic. And COVID-19 is the 8th highest killer of kids aged 5 to 11 over the past year.
Oh my god.
So I'm just saying, like...
That's pretty high up there. Because you can think of, like, say, like, car crashes and, like, sicknesses.
Seriously.
But, like, COVID is a sickness.
Yeah. Like, and there has also been 2,000 school closures, so it is so important to get your kids vaccinated. There is no risk. Trust me. The FDA does a very thorough job of showing their data.
For sure.
So.
For sure. Get vaccinated, folks. That's really exciting.
Yes.
All right. The next one is also about vaccinations. 72% of unvaccinated workers have vowed to quit if ordered to get vaccinated. That's a large group of people. Yeah. So a survey conducted by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that 37% of unvaccinated workers said they will quit their jobs if forced to get vaccinated or take weekly COVID tests. And 72% said they would quit if their employer mandates vaccines and doesn't offer a weekly testing option. So that means, like, if they just have to take vaccines and that's the only option.
So what does the weekly testing option entail?
Okay, so the weekly testing option is, like, if you're not vaccinated, you have to get tested every single week. And obviously, if you test positive, you can't come in. But if you test negative, you're good to go to work.
And the testing is so uncomfortable.
I hate the testing so much because I got tested once. They stick something up your nose, and trust me, I would 1 trillion times rather get vaccinated than get tested weekly.
And by the way, we've both been vaccinated for like 6 months or so.
Yeah. So testing is so much worse than the vaccine.
There was also like a rumor that your period goes away. I don't know who started that. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Like, I mean, my period is always irregular no matter what.
My period's been regular and mine's regular.
Yeah, and like everyone in my family too. Like,
the thing about this vaccine is that it's mRNA. That means it doesn't interact with your DNA really. It just trains your body how to react. It doesn't change your DNA, so it can't do anything about your period.
And I think some people are so cynical that they might just like be coming up with this, and then one person says that, and then suddenly everyone else is like, oh yeah, and it's like, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's a huge reason for women and girls especially not to get vaccinated.
Like infertility has been a big discussion, and it's like literally impossible.
It's proven not to affect your fertility rate.
There's just no way, like mRNA, there is no way it can like affect your DNA at all, which was how your infertility, your like fertility works. So there's no way.
Right. And it can't affect your period either. Yeah. So the Biden administration is creating safety rules that will require all businesses with 100 or more employees to mandate vaccines or test employees often, like say weekly. So this would apply to about 2/3 of U.S. workers, which makes up about 80 million people. That's a lot of people. So say everyone who said like, oh, I would quit follows through with this. That would mean that 5 to 9% of people could end up quitting their jobs, which is a lot. That's a large portion of people. Yeah. Which is bad for our economy. We don't want people to be unemployed.
Very bad.
We don't want people to lose their jobs or quit their jobs, you know? So, however, United Airlines and Tyson Foods, which are both major businesses, have said that when they mandated vaccinations or weekly tests, everyone in their workplace complied and like no one was like, I quit. So, some of this, like, some people may say, oh, I would quit, but I might not actually follow through. So, on top of this data isn't totally representative because it's, it only covers 1,500 U.S. adults, so that's not everyone.
Of course.
So, 24% of adults in the same survey said they knew someone who quit for work over vaccine mandates, but only 5% of unvaccinated people in the survey said they themselves had actually quit their own jobs over that. Okay. So it's still larger than we want it to be, but you know. Yeah. So the survey, by the way, was taken between October 14th and 24th. So
pretty recent. Yeah,
so many people are really concerned about this though. Vaccine mandates are still more common than they used to be, though, which is good. So the survey found that 25% of workers said their employer required vaccinations, which is a rise from 9% in June. That means that more employers are, like, mandating vaccinations, and a lot of people really want, like, a federal mandate, so then basically their workplace can be more safe, but they can't be the one blamed, so people don't quit. So a lot of people want that. Okay, last thing. The CEO of United Airlines, who's Scott Kirby, said that it would be disrupted to the usual running of airlines if everyone had to test weekly. So a lot of people were very against the testing weekly because he said if people tested positive and if was like a delay in people getting tested or people didn't want to get tested, no one would come to work and this could lead to flight cancellations and service problems. So a lot of people are against that. So yeah. There's that. Okay, sorry.
Last update of the first half is about Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. All right.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about Meta, right?
Yes. So, on Thursday, the Facebook announced that it will be changing its name to Meta. So, Facebook, which is like probably one of the most popular forms of social media, will now adopt the new name Meta, based on the sci-fi term of metaverse, to describe its vision of like being a virtual reality sort of world.
Okay.
So a lot of people kind of know the reason behind this, and I think I talked about this before, but the whistleblower by Facebook, known as Frances Haugen, a whistleblower, by the way, is like a employee that kind of like spills the tea about like
the very dangerous tea that the company doesn't want spilled.
Yeah, it's like the inside workings of kind of like things that they do that are unconstitutional, fraud, etc. So she detailed to the Senate subcommittee and a bunch of product safety and data security on like her knowledge of how Facebook's algorithm is intentionally promoting radical and wrong views of like politics to people that simply follow Republicans just so that they can make profit off of it. And she said that they, quote, harm children, stoke division, and weaken our democracy, put profit over moral responsibility, and promotes misinformation knowingly through their algorithm. So she was highly critical of it, but she also like offered a lot of evidence. But after this, there has been so much attention brought to Facebook. There's been so much scandals, so many like news articles done on them, that people believe that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to change their name just to distance themselves from this drama.
Yeah, so people don't, when they think of the new name, which is Beta, they don't think of Facebook.
Yes, they don't think of like the scandalous Facebook.
Yeah.
So scandalous.
Ooh.
So, yeah, the renaming was announced at the Facebook Connect augmented and virtual reality conference, and it represents their like growing ambitions, and also, they didn't say this, but trying to get away from the scandal.
Yeah,
it's pretty obvious.
Let's be real.
So, the company said that like by announcing this new name, it would also change its stock ticker. So, a stock ticker, it was so confusing to me. It took me a long time to understand this. Okay. But a ticker is like a symbol, basically like an abbreviation, kind of for like a security traded on a specific market. So it's in the stock market, and it's like used to like identify the different stocks and like investments made. For example, like Apple's stock ticker was the AAPL. Ford's stock ticker was the single letter F. So it's basically just like a symbol that kind of like people know the stock by. It's not that simple, but
okay, that's confusing.
It's super confusing. Yeah, so a stock the actual definition is a ticker symbol or stock symbol is an abbreviation used to uniquely identify publicly traded shares of a particular stock on a particular stock market. Okay. So they changed their stock ticker from FB for Facebook to MVRS for like Metaverse.
Is the Facebook like the company? Is it still named Facebook, or is it?
No, it's Meta. No? They're changing it to Meta completely, and so
okay, sorry. If you download the app, would it be like Facebook or would it be Meta?
As of right now, I think it's still Facebook, but I think they signed to change their stock ticker in December-ish.
Oh, wow.
So I'm thinking that at the same time they will probably change the actual thing.
Right. Okay.
But they're also hoping to introduce like a virtual reality type thing where people can like sit in a virtual reality rooms. It's really weird, but they showed demos of it, and like it was part of it was like a Pixar animation of like people sitting of their cartoon version sitting in like these spaces. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but
right.
What do you think about this decision? Do you think it's smart or bad?
Personally, I would say it's a bad decision just because Facebook is known for being Facebook, not Metaverse. Like, it's almost like they're starting from the ground up. They're, like, restarting. And I get they're trying to get away from the backlash and stuff, but even with everyone complaining about Facebook, there's still so many people that use Facebook, right? Yeah. So, like, I think with Metaverse, it's almost like creating a new thing, so you have to start again, and I feel like it's more complicated, and no one's gonna know Facebook by Metaverse, they're gonna know it by Facebook, you know?
Exactly. I said almost the same thing. I also have to know, like, about the stock market. You guys should look into stocks, because it's really important, even though it's really confusing.
It's
becoming super prominent today, but anyway, I agree with Celine. I feel like I understand they want to separate themselves from this scandal and kind of build a new name, but the fame that Facebook has acquired is like unmatched, and there's no way it's going to gain the same popularity. There's no way.
I just don't think it will. And I think it's like if a singer randomly changed their name, you know, it's like people wouldn't know them by that name, you know?
It's
they
like,
like if Ariana Grande changed her name to like Ben Carter.
It just doesn't have the same effect, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right, because
Anyway.
So anyways,
that's our first tap.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.
Catch you in a second. Back from the break.
Hi. Okay, so second half, let's get right into it.
Yes.
First update is woman dies trying to swim across the U.S.-Mexican border with a group of migrants. So migrants are just people who like move from one place to another, like a region or a country. So agents in the U.S. Border Patrol were notified of the fact that before midnight on Friday, a group of 70 people were trying to swim between the Bay Area of Tijuana, Mexico, and the beach at Borderfield State Park in San Diego. So the woman was believed to be a part of a group of 70 migrants who were swimming, and when she was found, she was unresponsive and unable to be revived. So the agency apprehended 36 Mexican citizens who swam across the border. 13 of the people they apprehended had to be rescued from the water, actually. So the fiscal year of 2020 has had more migrant deaths on the U.S. southern border than any other year. And by the way, the fiscal year was from October 1st, 2020 to September 30th, 2021. So it's a little bit different than our normal year, but it's still like the same period of time. So the fiscal year, there have been 557 southwest border deaths between the fiscal year. And this is a 254 increase from the prior fiscal year, which is a lot. So according to the agency, the majority of the deaths from the migrants are related to heat exposure, like stuff like heat stroke, for example, but some migrants also get lost or run out of supplies. Experts say one of the major elements driving the amount of illegal border crossings is the pandemic, because there's such economic harm in like different countries that people want to get out and go to a better country, you know, or like a country that's doing better like economically. So when you think about this, like, why would you want to, like, risk your life to cross, like, illegally if you could cross legally? So there are definitely a lot of reasons why, like, immigrants would cross illegally, and I'm going to get into that. And it's why a lot of people actually believe in, like, immigration reform. Yeah. Because there are a ton of opportunities for some people to get, to live in the U.S. Legally. So there's an estimated number of about 11.1 million unauthorized immigrants in the U.S., meaning they entered illegally. So according to 2 opinion surveys, 98% of unauthorized immigrants said they would have preferred to enter the U.S. legally instead of illegally. So in the U.S., there are currently a few categories that people can come in, like, legally. So most unauthorized migrants living in the U.S. right now are not eligible for a green card. Mm-hmm. And a green card means you can live and work permanently in the U.S. So the first way you can get in, I guess, to the U.S. and get a green card is if you have, like, a qualified family member in the U.S. that petitions to bring a foreign-born family member to the U.S. lawfully. So say you're coming from Mexico and you have a family member in California, they could petition for you to come. Yeah. And U.S. citizens can petition for lawful residency in the U.S. for people like spouses, siblings. So, like, if your sister was in Mexico and wanted to come in, you could petition. But the relatives have to have an income level that is above the poverty line and have to commit financially to the immigrant. So, like, your sister in California would have to have a certain amount of income that's above the poverty line and would have to commit to, like, you know, having you come in. So next up, another category or like way immigrants can get in is if they're fleeing political persecution or future persecution based on race, religion, political opinion, stuff like that. Refugee. So these people are called refugees, which basically means they're fleeing a very bad or dangerous situation. So they may seek political asylum in the U.S. or count for refugee status, which means they'll be let in. So refugees are of special humanitarian concern to the U.S., so that's why we let them in. So there is also an annual limit to the amount of refugees that can enter the U.S., so if we surpass that limit, we can no longer let any more in.
They're called quotas.
Quotas, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Quotas are like limits that certain countries can allow people to immigrate. So they started in like the 1920s during the Great Depression, and it's like this many people from China can immigrate to the U.S.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So lastly, one of the other immigration categories involves being sponsored by a U.S. employer to come live in the U.S. lawfully. So these categories are limited to those with advanced degrees, though. And say, if you're a low-skilled worker, by the way, a low-skilled worker is someone who's defined as having no more than a high school education and having no more than 1 year of experience. If you're a low-skilled worker, it's really hard for you to get into the U.S. because there are only 5,000 green cards annually available for low-skilled workers. So, I just went through all the ways you can, like, get into the U.S. If you don't fall into any of these categories, like, you don't have family, you're not a refugee, and you're not, like, you don't have the work level or experience or, like, education level, then there's not really another way to get in, which is why a lot of people believe in immigration reform, so more people can be let in, you know?
Yeah.
So then more people would get in legally rather than illegally, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Human geography. That's why I know a lot about. We did like a month on migration.
Oh wow. Jeez.
Yeah, it's a lot. We had to memorize like the great U.S. migrations.
That's confusing.
It was really confusing.
Okay, that is.
And like the great migrations of like Asians and Europeans. Anyway.
Wow. Okay.
So the next update is about Queen Elizabeth. So you've probably seen this on the news, but the Queen Elizabeth was admitted to a hospital. The London King Edward's VII's Hospital on her first day in the hospital in 8 years, which is insane because she hasn't been like in the hospital for like a long time, and she was admitted to the hospital. People are speculating it's probably because of stress. They didn't reveal much about it, to be honest. But a couple of sources say that she was super busy hustling after Prince Philip's death, as well as Emma Raducanu's U.S. Open last month. She watched for like a long time and she was staying up late, and it left her pretty like, tousled per se. So she was staying there, and she was in the hospital for overnight, and it was really weird because a lot of people like to say that the Queen overworks herself. So it was kind of weird to see. She was ordered to take rest for 2 weeks, and because of that she had to cancel the 13th Festival of Remembrance at the Royal Albert Hall in London, an event meant to honor the British and Commonwealth men and women who have fought wars and other disasters. And she was really sad about that, according to the palace, but she's hoping to attend the Remembrance Sunday ceremonies, and it has a great importance. She's enjoyed like having pretty good health in her old age, but a lot of people are thinking that she's starting to have more health conditions. I mean,
especially if you're working that hard, I think, because she's like the queen,
so
I think that can definitely work. That can be hard.
So I mean, I hope she's doing well. I know all of the UK is kind of just crossing their fingers. And so, yeah, she would not appear at the UN climate conference in Glasgow, which was like a great disappointment to the British government. But she is staying in the Windsor Castle, and she's not really holding many public appearances, but she's hopefully resting and getting better. And next year will be her Platinum Jubilee, which is 70 years on the throne. So we're hoping that she is good for next year and she will be able to celebrate her 70 years. So all the best to Miss
Queen Elizabeth.
Queen Elizabeth, yes. Even though I act like I know her, even though she's the Queen. I don't know the Queen. I've never seen the Queen. But yes, the Queen is great.
Okay. So,
let's talk about the G20.
The G20 Summit. So, the G20 Summit is basically, it's like a meeting of different, like, countries. It's a forum of 19 different countries in the EU, and basically they just meet together to discuss things like health crises, like, just different issues that are prevalent in society, basically. So I'm going to go through, like, things that have happened. So Biden actually called Russia and China out for failing to make meaningful commitments to, quote, deal with climate change. Ouch. So he criticized their lack of commitment at the G20 Summit to, like, agree to climate initiatives to, like, whether it be, like, reduce greenhouse gas emissions or, like, you know, improve cleaner sources of energy. So Biden said, quote, the disappointment relates to the fact that Russia, and including not only Russia but China, basically didn't show up in terms of any commitments to deal with climate change. So, on top of this, Biden talked about the strength of his commitment to climate change. He's basically like, I'm going to double down and I'm going to, like, we're going to work on this because it's a major issue, you know? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, so next thing is that Biden says he's going to meet with a, quote, broad coalition of partners to address supply chain backlogs. So the president, Biden obviously, made a push for his domestic agenda in the Build Back Better plan and said it would strengthen the supply chain. So, he said, quote, in the Build Back Better framework, which is, God willing, going to be voted on as early as sometime this coming week, includes for the first time several $1 billion to help strengthen the supply chain to make sure that we have access to everything that we need. So, that's good. Okay.
Yes.
Let's just go through all the... Okay. I'm just going to go through all these different categories. So,
they failed to make the net zero pledge, which I thought was interesting. So it was the net zero pledge would be like an agreement that they would do.
Basically, keep the global average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which would help with like climate change. So
net zero emissions, you know.
Yeah, like greenhouse gas emissions is what they're referring to. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There was another thing I wanted to talk about with that. Let's see where it went. I'm so sorry. Okay. So the United Kingdom actually announced it would be naming an enormous body of ice in Antarctica the Glasgow Glacier because basically they wanted to start marking the outstanding effort to the scientific community and basically name glaciers after the locations of major climate treaties. So they named the glacier after that. So
yeah.
And there's still more, but it's, like, a lot, and I don't want to go through, like, literally everything, so.
Yeah.
Basically, they're just meeting, and one of their main topics is, like, climate change. So they're working on, like, climate change initiatives, stuff like that.
Okay. So, our next update is about how a customer filed a $5 million lawsuit against Kellogg for not having enough strawberries in their Pop-Tarts. In this really class action lawsuit filed by Illinois resident Anita Harris in August, so she said that the marketing, she basically accused them of false marketing. Mm-hmm. She said it was misleading because it gave the impression that the fruit filling contains a very healthy and great amount of strawberries than it actually does. And they're promoting strawberries to promote health risks, which is false because they don't even have any strawberries in it or much strawberries in it. And so in this, they cited that like Pop-Tarts contains 2% or less of things including dried strawberries. So that means like less than 2% of their product is dried strawberries, which they were kind of like
but still like $5 million, I feel like that's like really full out.
Yeah, and the reason that they did like such a high wage is because they were just trying to basically now I think false advertising has been a very big deal. Edgar Dworsky, which is a consumer and lawyer and founder of the editor Consumer World, said, quote, food product labeling cases are hot now. So like people who label some things that are exaggerated hyperboles, so like anything that basically just exaggerates their things have been like pressed with lawsuits, including Honey Bunches of Oats is almost devoid of honey. Morningstar Farms veggie hot dogs have almost no vegetables. And so they're basically like suing them on false advertising. And it sounds outrageous, but it actually might be a good case to watch.
I feel like almost in a way it's like totally different, but I feel like it's kind of like clickbait. Like they're saying something, but then like when you get into it. And I think that's a good thing because a lot of false advertising can be dangerous. Like we've talked about that with like vaping and stuff.
Yeah.
How like people can falsely advertise. And obviously it's a lot different, but still I think falsely advertising can be bad for companies. So
and so They said that, like, the false and deceptive representations and omissions are likely to influence, like, customer purchasing decisions. So if this lawsuit does get more attention, and if she even wins, then there will be a lot of, like, rebranding probably be done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Bueno. Last one.
So a meeting with Macron.
He's the French
so funny.
Prime Minister, right?
Oh, Macron, yes, he's the French Prime Minister. Biden says the U.S. is clumsy with submarine deal. I love that.
That's my favorite thing.
Love it. So Australia, I love it. Okay, so let's talk about this. I had talked about this in a previous update, but I'm pretty sure everyone forgot because that was like in September.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna review again. So Australia and France had made a deal which provided Australia with conventional and diesel-fueled submarines.
Oh, I remember.
Yes. And then Australia's like, haha, suckers. No, actually, I'm making a deal with the U.S. and Britain. And basically just cut off France. And then France got pissed off because they were left out. So that happened. They're like, no, that's rude. Submarine. They were very offended. And I can understand. Like,
Mr. Macron.
It was like, stab in the back, okay? You don't stab France in the back. Not Macron, guys.
Especially with a baguette.
These
French
especially with Macron. Okay. So on Thursday, a nuclear-powered submarine...
Can't stab Macron with baguette.
I mean, you could. So, yeah, they were, quote, angry and bitter, and they were, like, really mad about it. So there was a lot of tension between the U.S. and France, just because the U.S. was part of that deal. But Biden called France an, quote, extremely, extremely valuable partner and described the handling as clumsy. So, he said that it was not done with a lot of grace, and he said he thought France had actually been informed of the New Deal, but France wasn't informed, so it was kind of like stab in the back because they didn't even know what was happening.
I feel like this is high school drama, but on like
a global scale. But like national, like a totally
you didn't tell me you were becoming friends with these two other girls, but
literally,
you did.
Like you didn't tell me you like
we're gonna be partners with
them.
them.
You didn't tell me they invited you to their house. Like, oh my god.
And you didn't invite me. You took me out of the invitation. Like, how dare you?
I wasn't invited to your birthday party.
Okay. Anyway,
sorry. No, it's fine. Okay. So Macron claims he was satisfied with the results of the meeting, and the relations between the U.S. and France have been restored. That's good to hear.
That's good.
So Biden and Macron met each other at the French embassy to the Holy See. Macron had previously recalled his ambassador from the U.S. back to Paris, but now he's allowed his ambassador to return to Washington a few weeks later. So he had a previous phone conversation with Biden where they promised they would meet in person in Rome, and it happened. So that's good to hear.
All right.